again, you're watching Everard Junction, and today I'm going to be doing some weathering on this Class 08, and I thought I'd show you it because I'm going to be employing some techniques that I've not tried before, and I'm going to be going for a different effect to what I usually do when I weather my rolling stock and locomotives. So this is a Class 08 shunter. These were introduced to British Rail in 1952, and they had almost 1,000 of these things built at the time. I think it was 900 and something units were made. They had 350 horsepower and a top speed of 20 miles an hour, and they were purely for shunting rolling stock. This particular one is 08021 and was built in about 1953. So you can imagine by the 1980s, when the layout is set, it would have been looking rather tired and worn out. And I found a picture of it, and my suspicions are confirmed. You can see the heavy fading to the paintwork and the deep entrenched dirt in all of the shut lines between the various panels on the locomotive. And then you can see by comparison just how pristine the model is looking at the moment. So I'm going to be fading the paintwork and making the model rather dirty, and it should certainly stand out on the layout and create quite a little nice area of interest. This particular model is made by Bachmann. Hornby also make a very nice model of the 08 shunter. It's purely personal preference which one you prefer. They are both very good. I have the Bachmann one because at the time when I was looking to get an 08, the Bachmann one was in stock and the Hornby one wasn't. So that's the only reason I've got it. But I'm very impressed with it. It runs very well on the layout, and it runs nice and smoothly over the various bits of point work and stuff. So once it's all weathered, it should look even better. Okay, the first thing that I did this some time ago, was to paint the wheels with sleeper grime. And I've also just painted a little bit of detail onto the buffers. The next thing I'm going to do is mask up the windows. And I will be weathering this model in its entirety. I won't be separating the body. I usually take the body off so I can really grime up the chassis, but the bodies on these are a bit of a bugger to separate from the chassis, and I'm going for some relatively heavy weathering effects on this particular model, so I can get away with just keeping it assembled. I've also gone over it with a nice clean soft brush and just got rid of any dirt and dust that may have built up with it being on the layout. So next thing I'm going to do is mask up the windows, and for that you can use masking tape or you can use this stuff which is made by Humbrol, and you basically paint it on with a brush and it dries, and it's difficult to describe the consistency. It sort of dries to a funny sort of like rubberized finish. When the paint is dry, you just peel it off the window. It works very well for tiny little areas that are difficult to get the tape into, such as the extremely small windows on the leading edge of the cab. So I shall be using that today. Okay, I've applied the Maskell stuff, and it sort of goes on in a purpley sort of colour, and then as it dries it goes clear, or mostly clear. So it doesn't look like it's there at all, but it certainly is. And that will just peel off with the tip of a sharp knife when the model is painted and dry. Okay, so now that's dried, I can get on with painting. I'm going to be doing the fading of the paintwork first, and to do that I'm going to be mixing together a sort of whitey grey wash of paint. It'll be extremely thin. Okay, I've got about 1/3 of a cup of just ordinary water in there to thin the paint, as it is acrylic. I'm going to go for 1 drop of grey. And 3 drops of white, and I'll see what sort of consistency that gives me. Might put a little bit more in, might add a little bit more water. Okay, so I've stuck the model up on a plinth, just so it's easy for me to move it around without touching it, and I'm happy with that consistency of the paint with the 3 drops of white and the 1 drop of grey. And I'm going to go over the model extremely carefully, and it may need a couple of coats. We'll see how it goes, but as I say, I've not done it before, so we'll see what happens. Okay, well that's done something. It's not quite what I was hoping for. The model looks used, it's taken the edge off it, and it looks weathered, but the paint doesn't look faded. It just looks like it's lost its shine. You compare it to a picture, that's the sort of thing I want to get. So I think my only option now is to paint on a faded version of BR Blue in certain areas, and then sort of mix it in with what's left on the model and try and create some sort of fading to the paint. Right, I think we've got something now. Basically all I've done is I've taken some Phoenix Precision paint. I've taken British Rail Blue, Network Southeast White, and also a little bit of the Network Southeast Light Blue, and I've just been experimenting with my own interpretation of sun faded British Rail Blue, and I think we're getting somewhere now. So what I'm doing is dry brushing this on to get the effect. So you take a decent paintbrush, and there should still be a little bit of paint on there. Just get a bit on there, there we go. So if you've not dry brushed before, you basically want to get as much paint as you can off of the brush. It seems a little bit counterintuitive. Now you've got something like that, and then you want to come up to your model, and you just want to stipple and drag the brush around. What's left on the brush will catch the hard edges of the model, which on an 08 is quite a few, and you'll get some nice faded paintwork. So I'm going to carry on with the model, and I'll come back to you in a minute and see how this thing's looking. This is all a bit of an experiment, but I think it's going in the right direction. Okay, here's what we had. I think you'll agree it's not brilliant. It's taken the shine off it, but that's all it's achieved. One thing I will say though is doing that has provided the perfect key for all sorts of effects. Any dry brushing, weathering powders or anything like that are going to stick like glue to that. So it has been beneficial doing it, but it didn't get the faded paint that we were after. Okay, so there's the picture. Excuse the blobs of paint, I was trying to colour match. There's the model. I think it's come out pretty well. Pretty close representation to the picture. Got that nice sun-bleached, faded look to the paintwork that I was after. So next I'll move on to actually doing the weathering, now that the paint has been suitably faded. Plenty of weathering to put on there, and it will blend some of the colours together and fade it even more, and it should come out quite nicely. Okay, I've taken some of the Vallejo paint again. This time I've gone for straight black. I've considerably watered it down again, and then using a tiny brush I've just been following around any areas of detail, any shut lines, gaps in doors, things like that, and just highlighting it with the black, using the picture as reference as well. And you can see it just brings all those little bits of detail to life and makes everything sort of pop out at you. It also makes it look more realistic as well. I've also painted the grills here, so they're absolutely filthy in the picture, so I've just painted those straight black as well. Done the connecting rod, so I'll do the other side, and then it's ready for a little application of sleeper grime in some specific areas with the airbrush, and perhaps a little bit of weathering powder also. Okay, so I've highlighted the areas I want to with some black paint. Now it's time to blend some of it in. You can see on the real thing certain areas were very dirty. So I'm going to start off with roof dirt instead of sleeper grime, because there is brown on there, but it's predominantly a black or a very dark grey. So we shall see how that works. Okay, the effects are nearly done. I'm just going to rub off a little bit of the paint that I've airbrushed onto the connecting rod and expose some of that yellow. This is a brush that's just been soaked in a little bit of thinners. So that's basically it. One or two little bits that I've done. I've scraped off some of the yellow paint on the buffers just to highlight a bit of colour as per the picture. Class 08 had a little whistle, and I've just painted that gold. Noticed in the picture it was still gold, it wasn't covered in rubbish and dirt, so pick that out. And what I will do is on that little overhead warning flash down there where I was a bit too generous with the blue paint, I will just reapply that. I've got a sheet of those transfers and I'll stick a new one on there. So all that remains now is to peel off the masking on the windows. Little bob of black on the buffers to represent the grease always makes a nice touch. Easily forgotten. I've just used a scalpel and I've managed to rub off some of the paint on those warning flashes and re-expose them, and they look quite sort of beaten up and tired and are very much in keeping with the model's condition, so in fact I'm going to leave those as they are. So that completes the weathering process. Quite often I will matte varnish the models just to add an extra layer of protection. I do that in particular if I've applied transfers or renumbered. However, the techniques I've used in this video have been somewhat different. There's only been a tiny bit of airbrushing, the majority of it has been stippled and dry brushed on. So I'm going to actually leave the matte varnish off. Another reason for doing that as well is I'm so happy with how it's come out, I don't want to do any more to it. I love it just the way it is. So going to let it dry and then put it on the layout and see how it looks.